So UFC 16 Battle in the Bayou took place on March 13th, 1998 at the Ponchart Train Center in Kenner, Louisiana, just 2 days before the Pride 2 event. No points for guessing what our next review is. So we start with a video package running down the fighters on the card. Our main event, Frank Shamrock defending his middleweight championship against Igor Zinoviev. We have 2 super fights, which is pushing it because these are not super fights. Sorry Kimo versus Tsuyoshi Kosaka. That is not a super fight. Neither is Jerry Bolander versus Kevin Jackson. These super fights used to be Gracie, Shamrock, Severn, Tiktarov. Guys that had been here, we'd seen consistently, appearing at multiple events, and a name on the card that you would recognise. Even Kimo, at the time he got his super fight against Shamrock, had only fought once, but it was a star-making performance. Jackson is off the back of getting subbed in 22 seconds. Bolander won a tournament last year, which wasn't anything to write home about. And we have never seen Kosaka before. He's 12-5 currently. He has a win over Maurice Smith. But, I mean, earlier in Maurice Smith's MMA career. But we don't know who the fuck this guy is. How is this a super fight? We're back in the USA and things are looking bleak. Allegedly 4,600 in the building tonight. Commentary is Jeff Blatnick and Mike Goldberg. They build Igor's submission game for his fight against Shamrock, and they say he's got Russian military background. And that's one of those things that sounds impressive on paper, and then they turn up and get smashed, like we have seen every other time any Russian military op has been here, they get beat. So I'm not really too worried about that. Kimo gets called a superb athlete by Blatnick, 250 pounds and ripped. I genuinely don't think that Kimo has looked the same any time we've seen him. Like, he's had a completely different build every single time. I don't know how he has this many transformations. I genuinely don't. They talk about Bolander being the leader of the Lion's Den, and Jesus Christ, this gem is in trouble. Bolander isn't even bad. He's just fucking boring and doesn't have the Shamrock name value. But we move on to our lightweight tournament, which, adjusting for inflation, would be a welterweight tournament. For the first time in UFC, we have a 170-pound tournament. We have, obviously, the heavyweights are anyone over 200, middleweights are under 199, and now we have the lightweights, which are 170-pounders. According to Mike Goldberg, this tournament is filled with pure steel and raw guts. Okay. Burnett is a powerlifter. Tado is, I mean, he's in here, right, for his 5th pro MMA fight. His first one was in 1984. We are in 1998. His last one was against Renzo Gracie, which was a no contest because the fans rioted, and that led to MMA being banned in Rio de Janeiro. This sport's always a great laugh, never gets taken too far. Saunders in this tournament is an Olympic silver medalist at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, and Pat Miletich makes his UFC debut tonight, probably best known for his coaching, but at this point he's 17-1-1, that one draw being against one of tonight's alternates, Chris Brennan. Also having beat Brennan actually in the rematch by decision. Oh boy, by decision, yep, I can see that one. Joe Rogan is back, and it's weird as fuck seeing him out here with the hair and the ear piercing. He gives the credit to John Peretti, a new UFC matchmaker. His first show was at Ultimate Japan, which was the last event we reviewed. You should watch that video on the channel. I'll have it linked at the end of this video. Sakuraba and Frank Shamrock debut, 2 title fights. It's a good time. But he doesn't have full autonomy over that Ultimate Japan card. But you can sort of see Peretti has his vision for the sport. We're seeing these lighter guys coming in here, but he has his vision for the sport. We'll probably start seeing some more changes over the next few years. He done a really good interview a couple of years ago with the MMA History podcast, and you can see his influence on this card, again with the 170-pounders, and his friends being on the event. Training partner Igor Zinoviev, Zinoviev. I'm going to get that name fucked up every single time. We're just going to call him Igor, right? And Mikey Burnett. Look, these guys, Mikey Burnett's in the tournament. He's friends with the matchmaker. So goes the way of the world. We spoke about this with fucking Horie and Gracie. It's the same thing here. Joe Rogan says that this is the best UFC card we've seen in a while. I mean, whatever you say, we'll see if that one comes to fruition. We go over the rules and the ways to win. Nothing new here. And out comes Mikey Burnett, and I swear to God, I thought, right, my first thought was, who is this small child walking to the octagon? He is 5'6", 170, and this is the smallest guy we've ever seen in UFC. And then he takes off the entrance gear, and holy shit, this guy's in good condition. That took me by surprise, caught me so off guard. And now out comes Tado. And this guy looks even smaller. He's like fucking Floyd Mayweather. They try to say that this guy's 5'8", 160. Are you out of your mind? He is tiny. But Jesus Christ, these midgets hit hard and swinging for the fences, by the way, for about 90 seconds. They stand there and trade shots before the submission attempt from Burnett, but he can't get the gilly. Tado escapes. Burnett is still on top in the guard, and after a lightning fast start, we are in the guard until the 8-minute mark, until referee Joe Hamilton stands us back up, and then we go straight back into a firefight on the feet. Can these guys please just stay standing? Tado gets his shit rocked, and Burnett almost KOs him on the feet, but Tado's able to clinch against the fence at least. And the 2 break, we get back to the middle, and Burnett TKOs Tado with a nasty uppercut, another big hand, and he's out on the feet. The referee jumps in, stops the fight. Tado has no fucking idea where he is. This was a very good stoppage, to be fair, and I know that this wasn't the devastating KO flatline, but it was on the way to it, so it was a good stop by the referee. Look, this was a decent fight on the feet, super boring on the ground, 5 straight minutes of guard, but on the feet, very exciting, and Burnett wins his semi-final fight, but immediately commentary lets us know he will not be able to continue and will be replaced in the final with his Lions Den teammate, Christopher Brennan. So Pat Miletich is up next. He's taking on Townsend Saunders, and these two again. This is the last time I'll bring up these guys' size, but Jesus Christ, these 170-pounders are like modern day flyweights. Just ridiculously small. It's so weird to see. Like 170-pounders right now is like Islam and Ian Gary, and now we're seeing these guys. It's so weird. The two clinch to start. They trade knees to the body. 90 seconds in, with basically, that's all the contact that there's been. There has been next to no contact in this fight, and there's some mild booing from the crowd before Saunders shoots in for the takedown, gets it, and you guessed it, folks. More time in the guard. This is just what we do. Finally, after the 4-minute mark, you think we're getting back to the feet? Or we're getting any movement whatsoever? You thought wrong, motherfucker. We are straight back to guard, and there is mild discontent in the audience. They've literally killed the crowd. They don't even care enough to boo. They are sitting there on their hands, silent. So just before the 6-minute mark, we see one of the worst leg lock attempts I've ever laid eyes upon. I have no idea what he's even going for here. A slightly better attempt at heel hook. 2 minutes later, unsuccessful. Straight back to guard. I've put this in 1.5 times speed now. Fuck these guys. This is truly terrible. So at a point I'm asking here, can the ref please stand this up? And as soon as I say that, Miletich then sweeps, gets on top, and the referee calls this outstanding action. I fucking give up. Honest to God. I love this sport, right? But sometimes it's just truly awful. Saunders is back on top into guard, because what else would we do here? Mike Goldberg now calls this spectacular. This might be the 13th reason. We go to overtime because we need to see more of this, right? We need to see more of it. They clinch, and all of a sudden the crowd starts making noise. Not because of any of the action going on in the cage, but because there's a fight in the crowd. Fuck this fight. Fuck these guys. Miletich wins by split decision. How? Because Saunders was on top the whole fight, landed the better shots of what very few there were. Given what this fight was, right? And the robbery finish, pound for pound, one of the worst fights in UFC history to this point. And I know that there's some stiff competition in there. Like, we've had long fights that have gone to a draw with no action. These are two fucking nobodies doing this shit, okay? One of the worst fights in UFC history to this point. Then again, who gives a fuck, right? The crowd boos the decision because they aren't fucking blind. But who cares? Again, fuck both these guys. Next. Jesus fucking Christ. An eternal 15 minutes that was. Jerry Bolander gives pre-fight comments, and someone really should have wrote his speech down for him, but again, at this point, who gives a shit? Genuinely, that last fight, right, has wiped any enthusiasm I have for this event or watching any fights ever again. We get Kevin Jackson in an interview. He says that he was disappointed with his last performance. What else would you expect? In the John Peretti interview, he said that he told Jackson not to shoot on Shamrock, and he did anyway and got subbed in 15 seconds. I bet he wishes that he listened to John. We started things off, and Bolander has the same camo shorts on that Burnett had earlier. That must be a new thing. That must be the Lion's Den garb. We'll see what Shamrock has on later. After nearly a minute of nothing, my tolerance is through the fucking floor right now. I apologise for that. But Jackson just sort of trips, stumbles, and falls into a takedown. It wasn't even an actual attempt. It was just as though like JB tripped up over his own feet backwards and Jackson just swarmed him, and now he's into guard. Oh, back to guard. JB almost gets an armbar here, and I thought that was actually going to be it, but Jackson does well to escape. He's into a sprawl, some elbows to the lower back that must have hurt like fuck because JB immediately just springs back up to his feet. The two wrestlers on the feet, as you'd expect, offering nothing in terms of hands. Jackson sprawls on JB before taking the back, and we're into half guard. Jackson here actually lands some good shots, but then he attempts the key lock. He has the wrist control here, but can't actually get the hold applied, and then Big John just restarts the fight on the feet. After that last fight we just saw, the decision to stand this up is outrageous after Jackson has the opportunity. Like, the submission is open there and like not 2 seconds ago, and then we just stand him up. But I'm not even going to complain because I am sick of guard. And as far as I'm concerned, we should just stand everybody up. So, good on Big John for that. Jackson immediately gets the takedown, and I can't prove that he's poking Bolander in the eyes, but his fingers are constantly covering the eyes. Big John has to keep telling him, watch the eyes. But I can't prove he is actually poking him. It's just as though he's like trying to make him blind. Not literally, he's just like blindfolding him, so to speak. But again, back to guard. JB attempts the armbar again, but Jackson escapes into half guard. Really nice transition here from JB. I was actually pretty impressed. And he's able to flip Jackson over into the armbar, gets the full extension, and Big John stops the fight. But Kevin Jackson never tapped, and he is fuming. Fuming. And I understand both sides of this. Kevin Jackson, obviously pissed off. The fight gets stopped when he didn't tap. But with a minute and a half left of the round, you can assume that if Big John didn't stop this, Jackson's arm would have been broken. And nobody wants that. Like, this is one of those instances where they talk an awful lot here about fighter safety. This is where it actually applies. Tony Ferguson, I always remember, was in a similar position against Oliveira. And Ferguson didn't tap, although it was at full extension. And the referee didn't stop it because they were so close to the end of the round. Here, there's still a minute and a half left to go. I think Big John was right to stop this. Obviously, not an ideal finish, but if it keeps going, he's going to break his arm. The fight's over then anyway, and now you're injured and need to rehab a broken arm. So, a good call from Big John. This would be the end of Kevin Jackson in UFC though, and I'm guessing this had him pretty pissed off. He never came back, which is a shame. I liked Kevin Jackson, but hey ho. We have the final of the lightweight tournament, Pat Miletich against Chris Brennan, and I am already dreading watching this. Miletich gets booed during the introductions, which is completely justified. And commentary are just ignorant to it. They just don't even acknowledge it. Completely ignore it. Just move on. Brennan takes down Miletich, and so it begins. Into half guard, the ghillie attempt by Brennan, and Miletich escapes. Now he's on top in the guard as I turn on 1.5 times speed. And after 9 minutes, and I'm being dead serious right now, 9 minutes of nothing, Miletich chokes Brennan with his shoulder and the crowd goes mild. They do not give a single shit about this, and neither did I. So they don't even present a medal here. Good. Nothing has been earned here. And we just skip straight to a Frank Shamrock video where he says that he's going to beat Igor in our main event. Oh boy, will he. Maurice Smith talks about Kimo and who he calls TK, so we will call him TK as well, because we're familiar like that, just like we are with JB, friends of the channel, by the way. He says that Kimo is more of a striker, which contradicts, his discipline being Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and also contradicts Barfrutin and Stephen Quadros. And what they were saying at Pride 1, they described Kimo as a grappler and basically just roasted his hands for being shit. But to be honest, I can't even put a name on Kimo's style. It's not even Jiu-Jitsu either, it's just sloppy. But I love Kimo, so does it really matter? It is whatever. He has his own style. He has the, what did he call it? Administering chemotherapy on his opponents. He has the chemotherapy style. So Mo Smith picks TK to win. Basically says that this is going to go a while. And what do you know? He says that unless Kimo can get a quick KO, possibly get a cut in a doctor's stoppage, that's Kimo's only way to win. So we'll find out about that. We hear from Kimo. He says he'll do whatever it takes to win. Clearly on the sauce again. He cycles more than Lance Armstrong. Goldberg says size won't be a factor in this one, even though there's only the 20 pounds difference after all. Tank Abbott on commentary, he calls all these lightweights little chihuahuas, and honestly, I know I said I wasn't going to make little jokes anymore, but he's right. These guys are tiny and not even like technically impressive. I understand that John Peretti likes smaller guys and he's the matchmaker, but like this was not an entertaining tournament. And I'll get back to that in the recap at the end of the video, but right now, the Hawaiian fighting legend Kimo from Huntington Beach, California, immediately sprints across the octagon, nails TK with a left hook. TK tries to take down, and Kimo sprawls. Kimo tries the leg lock. TK does well to escape. They just start rolling around the octagon, and they manage to stand up. Or I should say TK manages to stand up against the fence before then just being taken down again by Kimo into half guard, and the crowd actually start chanting for Kimo. I love it. Here, commentary says that the plan for this fight here, the winner will face Tank Abbott at the next event, UFC 17, when we return to Alabama. That won't happen. Kimo gets countered, he counters a takedown with one of his own into side control and half guard. We're back to this again. And Tank now on commentary is begging for someone to throw punches, and I'm thinking the exact same thing. I like Kimo, but we're here in Mount. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let's get it going. TK manages to get the leg lock attempt, forcing Kimo off the top, and we're back to the feet. TK stuns Kimo on the feet, and Kimo looks so tired that these shots aren't even devastating shots, but he just looks so gassed that it's like watching the hero die in a movie. He just starts getting pieced up, and his fatigue is making these shots seem even worse because he's reacting so slow, but he's still staggering with every single hit. He needed that minute break for overtime. And coming out of the overtime, or coming out of the break into the overtime, Kimo immediately shoots, gets sprawled on twice. He fails 2 takedowns, and twice on the way back up to the feet, he gets hit with hard knees by TK. Kimo finally gets the takedown, but is then quickly reversed because he's so gassed. And TK is now on top. He's hitting Kimo with just the hardest shots of the fight. And he's well on his way to a decision. The last 10 seconds is literally just an absolute onslaught from TK. And the judges decide that he won the fight. Unanimous decision. And I agree, this was a clear victory for TK. And so finally, the fight that we have all been waiting on. The last one. Igor versus Frank Shamrock. We hear from both fighters who are confident they're going to win, but what else would you expect? It's kind of like interview bingo. And Frank Shamrock's now fighting out of the Alliance, not the Lions Den. He's accompanied by Maurice Smith. And will we see some striking from Frank Shamrock? Maybe this time. Will we? Well, we won't, because in 20 seconds, he picks up Igor and nearly kills him on the slam. Genuinely, by the way, I'm not joking. Igor gets stretchered out of here. Now, we don't see that on film, but in my research, Igor gets stretchered out here. The slam from Shamrock, you'll see it. The shoulder of Shamrock lands straight on Igor's chin. The power on the slam, Igor's head like bounces off the floor, comes up straight into Shamrock's shoulder that has just all of his weight dropping on it, straight onto Igor's head. I'm not joking. This was the end of Igor's career. He got injured on this slam, broke his collarbone, fractured a C5 vertebrae, and that was it. He was done. And that brings UFC 16, the battle in the Bayou, to a close. Thank goodness. So, I don't want to be completely negative on this one. This was not one of my favourite events. It might have just caught me on a bad day, but this was not great. But let's start off on a positive note, okay? No alternate fights put on this pay-per-view. I've been complaining about this. They are pointless unless the winner is actually competing in the tournament. And even then, just show me the highlights. These shows are already long enough. Like, we didn't even get the highlights here, so that is a move in the right direction. And when I've critiqued them before and asked them to change it, I need to praise them when they then actually do change it. So, on to reality. Now, the lightweight tournament was terrible. Burnett versus Tado had an entertaining first 90 seconds and an entertaining last 90 seconds, and everything in between was pure drivel. Miletic, I'm not even going to talk about. Just disgusting performances, a bad decision, shouldn't even have been in the final. The tournament was shit. Like, what else do you actually need me to say? JB versus Kevin Jackson was not offensive, hardly scintillating, but you listen to commentary and this was the greatest night of fighting to ever happen, and it's ridiculous. Like, the card picked up at the end, Kimo versus Takei, wasn't bad, not something I would ever describe as even being good or like a must watch, but Kimo getting tagged repeatedly whilst gassed and still not going down was pretty impressive, I suppose. But, I mean, nothing that you need to go out of your way to see. Performance of the night, moment of the night, knockout of the night happened almost 2 hours into the card. Frank Shamrock is goated. Nothing else left to say. He is the shining light of this card. If there's anything worth watching, if you haven't seen that slam, go and watch Frank Shamrock versus Igor slam. It's a 20-second fight and the best 20 seconds on this card. I spoke about Tank Abbott in the Hall of Fame in my last video. Some nice feedback on that, by the way. I wasn't expecting that, but that was nice to read. Where's Frank Shamrock in the Pioneer Wing of the Hall of Fame? I don't know. Can someone find him, please? But that is that. UFC 16, the battle in the Bayou is in the books. And if you're watching anything from this show, make it the last 20 seconds and burn the rest of it. UFC 17 will have the return of Mark Coleman, Frank Shamrock, Tank Abbott, the debut of Dan Henderson and Chuck the Iceman Liddell. But that's the next UFC event. Thank fuck the next time I speak to you on a retro review will be for Pride FC. We will be reviewing Pride 2, and this is such a blessing because I want far away from UFC right now. Pride always comes along just at the right time. After UFC pisses you off, Pride just rises up. Pride 2 has some Gracie representation, so that's not good. We were scheduled to get Hoyce versus Mark Kerr. Hoyce gets injured, thank Christ. Or maybe not, I just think Kerr might smash him, so might have wanted to see that actually. Mark Kerr's still on the card, Sakuraba's on the card. Thankfully, more UFC veterans, Marco Huas, Gary Goodridge will also be there. And we will be there to review it all. Hit the like button, subscribe for more content, hit the notify bell to stay up to date with all the content as it drops. Share with a friend who enjoys early UFC, should find out about early UFC, or has an interest in Pride and just wants to hear me lose my mind. So share that with them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.